Indian national movements. The emergence of nationalism. The dissatisfaction with British rule intensified in the 1870s and 1880s. The major reasons for these dissatisfactions are the following: political, administrative and economic unification of the country, since the British introduced a uniform system of governance throughout the country, which unified India as one unit. Economic life was also interlinked by introducing modern industries. Because of this, a feeling of solidarity and togetherness developed. The postal system, telegraph and railway also helped people to come in contact with one another. Due to the spread of modern education, the nationalistic feelings were also raised. Because of the spread of modern education introduced by the British, people became more conscious of their rights by exposing to Western ideas. Introduction of English language acted as the unifying factor for Indians because people from different parts of India who speak the different language could now communicate with one another. Role of press. The Indian press played a very important role in solidification of national consciousness. Different anti-Indian policies of the British government were highlighted by the newspaper of that period and motivated the people to unite. The works of scholars and writers aroused national consciousness. Although the government tried to suppress the growing feeling of nationalism by banning newspaper and books, but these attempts failed. Arms Act and Vernacular Press Act. In 1878, the Arms Act was passed, which disallowed Indians from possessing arms. In the same year, the Vernacular Press Act was also passed to impose restrictions on vernacular newspaper. Introduction of Ilbert Bill. In 1883, law member of Lord Ripon named Ilbert Bill introduced the Ilbert Bill. This bill provided Indian judges with the power to try cases involving Europeans or British. This brought equality between British and Indian judges in the country. But when white opposition forced the government to withdraw the bill, Indians were angry. Indian National Congress. It was established when 72 delegates from all over the country met at Bombay in December 1885. Formation of different political associations. Indians began to form political associations after 1850. In 1851, first such association named the British India Association formed by Surendranath Banerjee. In the next year, the Bombay Association and the Madras Native Association were set up. Different political associations formed between 1870 and 1880. Some important of these are given below. Pune Sarvajanik Sabha, Indian Association, Madras Mahajan Sabha, Bombay Presidency Association, Indian National Congress. Most of these were managed by English-educated professionals such as lawyers. Although many of these associations functioned in specific parts of the country, their goals were stated as the goals of all the people of India. These associations worked with the idea that people should have a modern consciousness and a key feature of nationalism. The early leadership such as Dada Bhai Nauroji, Feroz Shah Mehta, Badruddin Tyabji, W.C. Banerjee, Surendranath Banerjee, Romesh Chandra Dutt, S. Subramanya Iyer, among others, was largely from Bombay and Calcutta. Dada Bhai Nauroji, who was a businessman and for a time member of the British Parliament, guided the younger nationalists. A.O. Hume, a retired British official, also played an important role in bringing Indians from the various regions together. The moderate phase. The Congress was moderate in its objectives and methods in the first 20 years. Therefore, leaders dominated the party were also called moderate leaders or moderate nationalists. Some important of these leaders were Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Surendranath Banerjee, and Dinshaw Acha, etc. It believed in constitutional methods and in the method of urging in the following manners. It demanded a greater voice for Indians in the government and administration. It wanted the Legislative Council to be made more representative. given more power and introduced in provinces where none existed. It demanded that Indians be placed in high positions in the government, and it called for civil service examinations to be held in India for this purpose. The demand for Indianization of the administration, reduce the drain of wealth to England, repeal of the Arms Act, freedom of speech and expression. It demanded the reduction of revenue, cut in military expenditure, and more funds for irrigation. The moderate leaders wanted to develop public awareness about the unjust nature of British rule in the following ways. They published newspapers, wrote articles to show how British rules were leading to the economic ruin of the country. They criticized British rule in their speeches. They sent representatives to different parts of the country to mobilize public opinion. According to them, the British had respect for the ideals of freedom and justice, so they would accept the just demands of Indians. For this, it was to express these demands and make the government aware of the feelings of Indians. The radical phase. Many Indians began to raise questions about the political style of the Congress because of the failure of the moderate to achieve the political reforms. In Bengal, Maharashtra, and Punjab, leaders such as Bipin Chandra Pal, Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Lala Lajpat Rai were beginning to forth new trends in the Congress. They explore more radical objectives and methods, therefore. They were called radical nationalists or radicals. They also criticized the moderates for their politics of prayers, and emphasized on the importance of self-reliance and constructive work. They called for strong political actions such as strikes, mass demonstrations and boycotts, etc. According to them, people must fight for Swaraj. Bal Gangadhar Tilak raised the slogan, "Freedom is my birthright and I shall have it," for the attainment of Swaraj. Partition of Bengal. Viceroy Curzon partitioned Bengal on the 19th of July 1905, which was the biggest province of British India. It included Bihar and parts of Orissa. According to the British, the main reason for dividing Bengal was administrative convenience. Instead of removing the non-Bengali areas, having the majority population of Muslims from the province, the government separated East Bengal and merged it with Assam. But the real reason for the partition of Bengal was to weaken the national movement in Bengal by sowing seeds of disunity between Hindus and Muslims. The consequence of partition of Bengal. Partition of Bengal infuriated people all over India and criticized by the people. All sections of the Congress opposed it. They organized different public meetings and demonstrations. Novel methods of mass protest developed, and the struggle came to be called as the Swadeshi movement. This movement is strongest in Bengal but spread everywhere. For example, in Deltaic Andhra, it was known as the Vande Mataram movement. The main objective of this movement was to oppose British rule and encourage the ideas of self-help, Swadeshi enterprise, national education, and use of Indian languages. Demonstrations during the Swadeshi movement. The radicals advocated mass mobilization and boycott of British institutions and goods to fight for Swaraj. According to some individuals, revolutionary violence would be necessary to overthrow British rule. All India Muslim League. A group of Muslim landlords and Nawabs formed the All India Muslim League at Dhaka in 1906, which supported the partition of Bengal. It desired separate electorates for Muslims. According to this demand, some seats in the councils were now reserved for Muslims who would be elected by Muslim voters. Surat split. Although the struggle against the partition of Bengal had temporarily united the moderates and radicals, however, the objectives and methods between two were not easily reunited. As a result, Congress split in 1907. The moderates were opposed to the use of boycott because it involved the use of force according to them. After the split, the Congress came to be dominated by the moderates and the radicals worked from outside. The two groups reunited in December 1915. In the next year, the Congress and the Muslim League signed the historic Lucknow Pact. They decided to work together for representative government in the country. Morally Minto reforms. To calm down the moderate leaders, the government announced the Indian Councils Act, which was popularly known as the Morley Minto reforms in 1909. The main aim of these reforms was introduction of more members to the central and provincial legislative council, introduction of separate electorates, the growth of mass nationalism. After 1919, the struggle against British rule gradually became a mass movement, involving peasants, tribals, students and women in large numbers and occasionally factory workers as well. Certain business groups too began to actively support the Congress in the 1920s. First World War. The First World War in 1914 changed the economic and political situation in India, which led to a huge rise in the defense expenditure of the Government of India. Therefore, the government increased taxes on individual incomes and business profits. Increased military expenditure and the demands for war supplies also led to a sharp rise in prices. This created great difficulties for the common people. Since war created a demand for industrial goods such as jute bags, cloth and rails etc. Therefore, business groups reaped fabulous profits from the war. Besides this, imports from other countries into India. Therefore, Indian industries expanded during the war, and Indian business groups began to demand greater opportunities for development. The initiation of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi emerged as a mass leader in these circumstances. Gandhiji arrived in India in 1915 from South Africa at the age of 46. He was already a respected leader who was known internationally. His South African campaigns had brought him in contact with various types of Indians such as Hindus, Muslims, Tamils and North Indians and also upper-class merchants, lawyers and workers etc. During his first year in India, Mahatma Gandhi spent traveling throughout the country, understanding the people, their needs and the overall situation. His earliest involvements include local movements in Champaran, Kheda, and Ahmedabad. During this, he came into contact with Rajendra Prasad and Vallabhbhai Patel. In 1918, he led a successful mill workers' strike in Ahmedabad. Gandhiji had become the most popular leaders in India by 1919. The common people became involved in the national movement for the first time because of his efforts. Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. The Government of India passed the Government of India Act of 1919 after the First World War. This act was popularly known as Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. Some important features of this law are the following. The Central Legislative Council was made bicameral, which means it would consist of two houses, namely Imperial Legislative Assembly, Council of States. There was no significant change in the power of these houses. Elected members could form the majority in both the houses. In the provinces, the system of diarchy or dual government was introduced. In this system, the state subjects were divided into two. Reserved subjects like finance and police were put in this list. Transferred subjects like education and public health were put in this list. Rowlatt Act. The British government passed the Rowlatt Act in March 1919. According to this act, the government could arrest anyone without a warrant and imprison him without a trial. The Rowlatt Satyagraha. In 1919, Gandhiji gave a call for Satyagraha against the Rowlatt Act. According to him, this act restricted fundamental rights such as freedom of expression and strengthened police powers. Mahatma Gandhi, Muhammad Ali Jinnah and others criticized the act as devilish and tyrannical. Gandhiji asked the Indian people to observe the 6th of April 1919 as a day of non-violent opposition to this act. Different Satyagraha Sabhas were set up to launch the movement. In this way, the Rowlatt Satyagraha turned out to be the first all-India struggle against the British government, although it was largely restricted to cities. The Jallianwala Bagh violence. There were several demonstrations and hartals in the country in April 1919. The government used cruel measures to suppress them. To protect against these, people gathered in a park in Amritsar called Jallianwala Bagh on the 13th of April 1919. General Dyer, the military commander of Amritsar, came to the park and ordered his men to open fire. Hundreds of people were killed and thousands were critically wounded. The massacre shocked the whole country. On learning about the massacre, Rabindranath Tagore expressed the pain and anger of the country by renouncing his knighthood. Khilafat movement. In 1920, the British imposed a harsh treaty on the Turkish Sultan or Khalifa. People were furious about this because Sultan of Turkey or Khalifa was the head of the Muslim throughout the world. This became the reason for the Khilafat movement, which was organized by Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali. This movement became a part of the national movement. Gandhiji supported their call and insisted the Congress to campaign against Jallianwala massacre and demand Swaraj. Non-cooperation movement. The Congress decided to start a non-cooperation movement against the rigid attitude of British, under the leadership of Gandhiji. This movement gained momentum through 1921-22. Different consequences of this movement were the following. Thousands of students left government-controlled schools and colleges. Many lawyers such as Motilal Nehru, C.R. Das, C. Rajgopalachari and Asaf Ali gave up their practices. British titles were surrendered and legislatures boycotted. People ignited public fires of foreign cloth. The imports of foreign cloth fell considerably between 1920 and 1922. Initiatives of people in the movement. In many cases, people resisted British rule non-violently, while in others, people protested in ways that were not following Gandhiji's ideas. But in both cases, people linked their movements to local protests in the following ways. Patidar peasants organized non-violent campaigns against the high land revenue demand of the British in Kheda of Gujarat. Liquor shops were enclosed in coastal Andhra and interior Tamil Nadu. Tribals and poor peasants showed several forest satyagraha in the Guntur district of Andhra Pradesh. The reason for their protesting was the restriction to their use of forest resources in several ways by the colonial state. Muslim traders and peasants were very enthusiastic about the Khilafat call in Sindh, in present-day Pakistan. The Khilafat, non-cooperation alliance gave enormous communal unity and strength to the national movement in Bengal. In Punjab, the Akali agitation of the Sikhs wanted to remove corrupt mahants from their gurudwaras who were supported by the British. In Assam, tea garden labourers demanded a big increase in their wages by shouting Gandhi Maharaj ki Jai. The happenings of 1922 to 1929. In February 1922, a crowd of peasants set fire to a police station in Chauri Chaura. As a result, 22 policemen were killed on that day. Mahatma Gandhi abruptly called off the non-cooperation movement. After the end of non-cooperation movement, Gandhiji's followers stressed that Congress must undertake constructive work in the rural areas. Some other leaders such as Chittaranjan Das and Motilal Nehru said that the party should fight elections to the councils and enter them to influence government policies. Gandhians were able to extend their support base through sincere social work in villages in the mid-1920s, which proved to be very useful in launching the civil disobedience movement in 1930. In mid-1920, two important developments were the formation of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh (RSS), Communist Party of India. During this period, revolutionary nationalist Bhagat Singh was active. In 1929, The Congress was resolving to fight for Purna Swaraj or complete independence under the presidentship of Jawaharlal Nehru. Simon Commission. The government appointed a commission to look into the working of the Government of India Act of 1919 in November 1927. This commission was called the Simon Commission after its chairman named Sir John Simon. This commission extremely disappointed the Indians because of the following reasons. All the members were Englishmen in this commission. The demand for self-government was also refused by the government. Dandi March. In 1930, Gandhiji declared that he would lead a march to break the salt law, according to which the state had a monopoly on the manufacture and sale of salt. Mahatma Gandhi, along with other nationalists, consistent that it was sinful to tax salt because it is an essential item of our food. On the 12th of March 1930, Gandhiji and his followers marched for over 240 miles from Sabarmati to the coastal town of Dandi. They broke the government law, thereby collecting natural salt found on the seashore and boiling seawater to produce salt. A large number of peasants, tribals and women participated in it. The government tried to crush the movement through cruel action against peaceful satyagrahas, and thousands were sent to jail. Now, salt became the symbol of people opposed to the government. First Round Table Conference. The government called a conference in London to discuss the reforms proposed by the Simon Commission in November 1930. Congress did not take part in it. Because of the absence of Congress, no decisions on constitutional changes could be taken. Gandhi-Irwin Pact. In 1931, Gandhiji met the Viceroy Irwin to sign the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, according to which the government agreed to release all political prisoners except those who charged with the act of violence. Second Round Table Conference. Gandhiji went to London for attending the Second Round Table Conference in September 1931. Here, only Gandhiji represented the whole country. This conference also ended as a failure because the government refused to accept the demands put forward by the Gandhiji. After returning of Gandhiji from London, Congress resumed the movement. Mahatma Gandhiji mobilized the entire country into anti-British struggle. India Act of 1935. After the combined struggles of the Indian people, the government announced the Government of India Act of 1935 in August 1935. This prescribed provincial autonomy, and the government announced elections to the provincial legislatures in 1937. The Congress formed ministries in 7 out of 11 provinces. After 2 years of Congress rule in the provinces, the Second World War started in September 1939. Congress leaders were ready to support the British war effort by the condition that India be granted independence after the war. But the British refused to accept the demand. Quit India movement later. In the middle of the Second World War, Mahatma Gandhi decided to start a new phase of the movement against the British called Quit India movement in August 1942. He told them to quit India immediately. He said to the people, "Do or die in your effort to fight the British, but you must fight non-violently." It especially attracted peasants and the youth. The first response of the British was severe cruelty by lathi charges and firing on unarmed demonstrators. Over 90,000 people were arrested, and around 1,000 killed in police firing by the end of 1943. Towards independence and partition. Meanwhile, the Muslim League had moved a resolution demanding independent states for Muslims in the northwestern and eastern areas of the country in 1940. This demand of the Muslim League for an autonomous arrangement for the Muslims of the subcontinent had the following reasons. From the late 1930s, the League began viewing the Muslims as a separate nation from the Hindus. This demand may have been influenced by the history of tension between some Hindu and Muslim groups in the 1920s and 1930s. The provincial elections of 1937 seemed to have convinced the League that Muslims were a minority. It also feared that Muslims may even go unrepresented. In the United Provinces in 1937, the Congresses rejected the League's desire to form a joint Congress-League government, which also annoyed the League. Azad Hind Fauj. A new strength was achieved by the national movement by the formation of Indian National Army, INA, which was popularly known as Azad Hind Fauj. An association called Indian Independence League formed by Rash Bihari Bose played an important role in its formation. The leader of this army was General Mohan Singh. In 1943, the leadership of Azad Hind Fauj came in the hands of Subhash Chandra Bose. He was popularly known as Netaji. He took the help of Japan to organize an anti-British revolt, but Azad Hind Fauj failed to liberate India from British rule. Towards independence, the British opened negotiations between the Congress, the League and themselves for the independence of India at the end of the war in 1945. But the talks failed because the League saw itself as the sole spokesperson of India's Muslims. Congress could not accept this claim because a large number of Muslims still supported it. In 1946, elections to the provinces were again held. The Congress did well in the general constituencies, but the League's success in the seats reserved for Muslims was remarkable, and it persisted with its demand for Pakistan. The British cabinet sent a 3-member mission called Cabinet Mission to Delhi to examine this demand in March. This mission suggested that India should remain united and constitute itself as a loose association with some autonomy for Muslim majority areas. But Congress and the Muslim League was not agreed to specific details of this proposal. The Muslim League decided on mass agitation for winning its Pakistan demand. After the failure of the cabinet mission, it announced the 16th of August 1946 as Direct Action Day, and disturbances broke out in Calcutta on this day, lasting several days. It resulted in the death of thousands of people. The violence spread to different parts of northern India by March 1947 in the following ways. 100,000 people were killed. Numerous women had to face untold cruelties during the partition. Millions of people were forced to escape their homes. In this way, the joy of our country's independence from British rule came mixed with the pain and violence of partition. On the 15th of August 1947, refugees from riot-torn Punjab gather in New Delhi, in search of shelter and food.